Hello. We're going to give it a minute more. Welcome. And then we'll get started. All righty. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to our Let's Talk Workday webinar this month. We're going to be talking about Workday messaging. While we jump into just a few housekeeping tips, please take a moment to respond to our poll. It's going to pop up here on the screen. And I'll share a little bit about our Zoom platform. So we're on Zoom. You're actually able to unmute yourself, come off mute, raise your hand, and ask questions. We do encourage that. We want this to be engaging and interactive. And so you can do that obviously by using the icons on your Zoom toolbar. So there's the ask the question, there's the chat, and then there's the raise your hand. If you do need any assistance, click on the raise a hand or put on or submit a question or comment through the chat and we'll connect with you as soon as possible. Again, we ask that you ask questions throughout the presentation, or we will have Q&A at the end of the webinar, and feel free to ask during that time. All right, so hopefully you've had a couple of minutes here to answer the question, and we'll get started. Over to you, Jared.
Thank you very much. So appreciate that introduction, Kate. My name is Jared Sarlo. I am a senior consultant here with the Armanino team. I've been in the Workday ecosystem for about 5 years now, currently based out of Chicago. I've had my hands in a lot of things HCM related. So, core HCM, payroll, compensation, recruiting, talent, although HCM and recruiting are generally my bread and butter. So appreciate y'all joining me today. Excited to talk to you guys about Workday messaging. So quick overview of the agenda today. We're going to start with just giving a basic overview about Workday messaging, what it is. From there, we're going to go into what goes into setting up and testing with Workday messaging. It's a little unorthodox, so that'll be fun to dive into. And then we will take a look at some additional considerations that we have to go over. And finally, we'll wrap up with our Q&A session. Once again, appreciate y'all taking your time to be here. We'll go ahead and jump right into it. So Workday messaging is a new channel that we can use to communicate to those outside of the organization. Generally, in the past, Workday has allowed you to use emails, to in some situations use pop-up notifications to communicate to those that may be outside of the organization, to let them know what's going on. And Workday messaging is our way of saying, hey, now, in addition to that, we can also use SMS text messaging to reach out to those individuals, which is extremely exciting. It allows us to, talk to these individuals through a different light, through a different channel, maybe engage with them in ways that we weren't able to before, right? And on top of all that, this is an integrated solution. So rather than having to go through some sort of third-party vendor to utilize text messaging with your recruiting team, you're now able to seamlessly do that through Workday messaging, no integrations needed. And there's a lot of benefits to this, right? So just to highlight a few of the big ones here, utilizing SMSs as opposed to email, we have found that the click-through rate with those text messages is about 6 to 7 times higher than what we see with email, which is a very large difference, right? And on top of that, 98% of text messages are read within 3 minutes of delivery. So not only are we reaching our candidates faster and more frequently, um, it's also going to be beneficial to them as well, as 85% of individuals enjoy texting with businesses or service providers. So this is really, really beneficial for both parties. Where not only are the candidates enjoying the experience, a lot of people in the world we live in today, right, prefer to use texting as a way, as a means of communication, as opposed to email. It's easier, it's more convenient, it's something that can be done quickly on the go. Uh, that also benefits the organizations, right? We're able to reach out to these candidates quicker, and there we can have more confidence that they will look at the messages we're sending them. So if there was some sort of situation where we needed to tell the candidate about a change in their interview process, an update to their offer letter, maybe it's some sort of quick back and forth question you're trying to communicate, that can be hindered with email and then the barriers that come with communicating via email. Using SMS messaging allows us to bypass that and again have a more seamless, enjoyable experience talking with these candidates. So quickly, we'll go over some of the features within SMS messaging. So use cases with SMS messaging include sending ad hoc messages, doing two-way conversations with candidates. So not only just letting them know about a certain event, a certain upcoming thing, but having an actual conversation with them or answering questions, right? We're able to invite individuals to apply, send interview reminders. We're also able to utilize message templates so we can create default templates that we can use over and over to become more consistent with our messaging. We can also utilize SMS on our recruiting business process notifications. So we can send out SMS texts based on certain criteria happening within a business process, right? On the right-hand side of the screen here, you can kind of get a glimpse as to what this looks like in action. You can see an individual confirming that they have opted in to receive SMS messages, which is something candidates will need to do in order to use this functionality. And then you can see that they receive a message prompting them to review their offer that has been sent. So very exciting stuff there. I'll also call out on the left center of the screen here, we have some common reports that go hand in hand with SMS messaging. A couple that I'll call out here, we have all outbound SMS notifications. So we're able to see all the messages that our team has sent. We can see a timeline of candidate communications with the history timeline plus candidate communication reports. We have the SMS opt-in, opt-out activity to see who has opted in, who has opted out. And then we also have a history of our terms and conditions that get sent out to the candidate as well. The last piece I'll briefly touch on here, I'll get a little bit more into it on the coming slides, but this must be opted into and you must sign the service innovation or innovation service agreement in order to utilize this functionality. You also must actively have Workday HCM or FINS, and this is currently only available in the US, Canada, UK, or Australia. However, it is worth noting that the roadmap Workday has laid out for us has other countries coming into the fold in the very near future. So setting up Workday messaging can be broken down into three main steps. We have the purchase and acknowledgement, we have the number provisioning, and then we have the security and content setup. So looking at this first section here, purchase and acknowledgement, as I mentioned, we need to opt into the innovation service agreement. I will add a caveat that if you have the universal main service agreement with your organization, you're automatically going to be opted into Workday messaging. You can view your organization on Community to determine if you have a UMSA or not. Otherwise, you will need to opt in. I'll also add that when this is set up, Workday messaging is a little bit backwards in that it's set up from the production tenant first. So normally, when we are building out pieces to use for Workday, we start in Sandbox or we start in some sort of implementation tenant and work our way through. It's a little bit backwards with Workday messaging in that to set this up, we need to go through the purchase and acknowledgement step within our production tenant first. And then from there, we will copy the production tenant backwards into those implementation tenants or potentially utilize our sandbox tenant um, to further test and set up our Workday messaging. The process of getting set up with Workday messaging will vary depending on the country that you live or trying to set this up for, I should say. So starting with the US, you must have a A2P 10 DLC brand registration as well as a campaign registration filled out and sent to Workday. That's done within the Workday tenant, and it can take up to 30 days. I will add with great confidence that I have not had an experience where it takes this long. It is usually done within a couple to a few days. Anything over a week would be, in my opinion, a long time based on the average. But Workday does recommend taking the 30 days to give yourself a buffer in case there is some sort of hiccup or slowdown with the process, right? So with the US, we'll send that brand registration into campaign registration. I have a slide in a bit here that shows what that looked like. We'll send that out and then we will confirm our two-way messaging numbers, which can again take up an additional 30 days. However, same rules apply. It is generally much, much quicker than that. In my experience, you could have the numbers set up, ready to go in, 2 weeks with, pretty good confidence there, right? But you should give yourself 30 days for both one-way and two-way to stay on the safe side. If you're in Canada, the area code must be selected. So it's a much simpler process. And with the UK, you need to fill out a regulatory bundle, which includes a lot of that same information that we see with the brand registration, as well as the campaign registration in the US. So we'll go through that process. It bleeds directly into our second step here, which is the provisioning of the numbers. And essentially what that's going to look like is you will ask Workday to give you numbers based on a specific area code. Workday will take that and then return to you around 15 to 20 numbers based on the area code that you preferred. You can have, again, about 10 to 20 numbers that will be different. Those will be divvied out to the recruiters. And Workday has acknowledged with great confidence that the numbers you are being sent and set up with are designed to handle thousands of conversations at a time. So the amount of phone numbers you get should not hinder your ability to message any and all candidates that you may need to message throughout your use of Workday Recruiting. It's also a new and exciting feature that we're able to have multiple countries with multiple numbers at the same time. So previously, if you had Workday messaging in the United States, it only could be for the United States. With the current setup today, we're able to have it for multiple countries at the same time, which is very exciting. And the last caveat I'll add here with the number provisioning is that we're only allowed to test our numbers in one tenant outside of production at a time. So I'll show a little bit in greater detail how that looks in a few slides, but just wanted to quickly call that out. Once we go through that process of acknowledging, purchasing, and then setting up our numbers, and we move our setup to a non-production tenant, we can go ahead and start to set up that security and the content. So that's going to include things like setting up message templates to be sent out for SMS, looking at our tenant settings, as well as setting up security domains to make sure that those who should be working with SMS are able to do so. So let's look at a few slides here to get a better visualization about what setting up Workday messaging is going to look like, right? So after we sign that innovation service, we're going to come to this task. It's called maintain Workday messaging. You type that right into the search bar. This should pop up. And this is where we're going to go through that brand and campaign registration we talked about, the setting up of those numbers for our different countries will be kicked off on this slide here, or on this report here, excuse me. So first thing you'll want to do is go into this top box here that says one-way messaging configuration. I have it outlined in my red box. You'll click the orange button, and that will bring you to this page here where you are filling out all the information required based on that campaign and brand registration. I'll call out, as you can see on the top of this screen grab here, this is for the United States. This screen will vary depending on the country that we are working in. Again, based on those, the criteria I was just looking at a couple slides ago, right? But you'll go through, you'll fill out all this information, probably working with legal or IT to make sure that you are gathering the right information. And then once this is all filled out, it gets sent out to Workday. This is where we can wait up to 30 days to hear back from Workday. Again, I would expect to be 2 to 3 days for when you get a response. They'll reach out to that brand representative email that you add here on the bottom of the form that's filled out. But you will also, and I'm going to go back a slide here. You will also, there we go. You'll also have it fill out in this this section here where we have no items available next to our black mouse. You will see the number populate here once it has been filled out. So you can periodically check this maintain Workday messaging template or task to see when it's set up, but you should also receive an email as well. Once that's set up, that's when we go ahead and click this second orange button I have boxed in down below here to set up our second round or to set up our conversational messaging configuration, or the two-way messaging as I may call it throughout the presentation. From there, we request the area code that we're interested in, send that out to Workday, and they, again, will get back to us within 30 days. Generally, it takes just a couple. And once that's done, you have your text messages, you have your phone number. You can now go ahead and begin setting up your Workday messaging. So in order to do that, I briefly went over this a few slides ago, but we'll want to set it up in a non-production tenant. So what you'll want to do first is find a tenant that is where you're going to do your testing. And then you'll head to this task here, configure one-way messaging for non-production tenant. It's basically just you confirming and telling Workday, hey, this is where I'm going to be sending our fake messages. This is where we're testing out SMS. You'll hit the confirm button there and then go ahead and hit OK. Once you do that, you will have to go back to that maintain Workday messaging and reconfigure those buttons that we were just looking at. Rather than waiting for 30 days, though, you'll just simply need to click the button and then hit confirm for both of these, and then you'll be set up, ready to go with messaging. So again, important to just think about it as you go into the process. I have seen situations where hiccups occur in that implementation and progress is being done within a non-production tenant. And we run into a roadblock where the team is trying to copy production into that implementation tenant. But in doing so, it would overwrite any of the work that has been done with that production tenant. So, or with that implementation tenant, excuse me. So I call that out to just have those on the call today be aware about, the order of operations with that. If you don't copy production over into that implementation tenant, before you make, grand changes to that implementation tenant, you could find yourself in a situation where you're working with stale data, or you are, overwriting work that you've already done. So just wanted to quickly call that out when looking at this non-production tenant setup. So quick view about what it looks like when we're all set up and ready to go here. I have my candidate Santa Claus set up. He has opted into SMS and he is receiving texts with the recruiting team that's been set up to communicate with them. I have a couple different features here that are new to the candidate profile. Firstly, being this SMS box I have highlighted in the red here on the left-hand side of the screen. This button here will inform me if a candidate has opted into SMS or not, which is very useful. And then on the right side of the screen here, we have a small blue notification with above some text bubbles. This is where the texting with the candidate happens. So recruiters or whomever is communicating with these candidates will go into the candidate profile. And as long as we have this candidate opted in, which again, we can view on this button here on the left-hand side, on the right panel here, we are able to just send text to our candidate. So I've had Ashley say hello, Santa. Santa says hello, recruiter. And then we can use the text bubble here, the text box here on the bottom of the screen to just have a organic conversation with that individual. This is what the two-way messaging is. We can also use one-way messaging, similar to how we send ad hoc emails today. The only difference there is that we would have the SMS option in addition to those emails. But this piece here, the two-way messaging, is, in my opinion, the very exciting piece. It's the very new piece. You can text directly with your candidates using this panel on the side here. Texting rates apply here, 160 character limit. Anything that would go with, a normal texting conversation, that's going to apply here as well. But there's no limitations on anything like a certain number of messages that you can send, a certain amount of candidates that can be texted at the same time, right? It's going to be treated like you are having a texting conversation with these candidates directly from your computer. So should be much easier to have quick conversations with these candidates, let them know something quickly, something small, answer questions they may have, which should be very beneficial to the recruiting team. In order to set up this configuration, the three domains we need to look at are listed here on the screen. Manage SMS conversations. That's going to be more of the reporting domain. You want to add individuals here who are more, administrative by nature, or who need access to look at sending history, opt-out history. Those reports we looked at a few pages ago, right? Those individuals should have access to manage SMS conversations. Manage candidate SMS conversations is what you want if for individuals who are actually going to be sending those texts to the candidates. So recruiting team, I'll usually add the primary recruiter, right? Recruiting coordinator, if you need to discuss when an employee can interview. Those are the kind of individuals on that second domain. And this third domain, SMS opt-in, opt-out, allows you to opt into candidates or opt out for candidates on their behalf directly within Workday. Generally, they'll be asked to be opted in on the application. But for us, we were able to get around that with this security group here. So quickly go over some additional considerations here. The first piece I'll call out is that there are some additions to the, or tweaks, I should call it, to the edit tenant setup notifications task, specifically in the screen grab I have at the bottom here for SMS compliance. We can set up our default terms and conditions here. We can also, and I would recommend updating the customer name to be as user-friendly as possible. That customer name is sent out to those candidates when they are getting that opt-in message. And it is beneficial to just make sure that this is the name that you want your organization to be represented by when you are reaching out to those candidates. I'll also add that we can create SMS messaging rules within this notification setup. Um, we can add them to things like active candidates receiving notifications, creating reminders to be sent via SMS, right? We can have notifications be the default means of notifying candidates through the edit tenant setup notifications task. Uh, Caveat I will call out, and I haven't touched this yet. In order to text an individual, they must be an active candidate on a job application. So they cannot be a prospect sitting within the system. They must actively be on a application in order to have a conversation with the recruiting team. The last piece I'll call out on this slide here is the SMS conversations card that we have on the recruiting hub. So this is a new addition to the recruiting hub. It is called unanswered conversations. We can add it to the recruiting hub for all recruiters. And this is essentially going to tell us any open conversations that we may have with candidates. So rather than having to go in and manually check each individual candidate to see if they've reached out, all your unanswered texts will be displayed on this recruiting card listed here. So, lot to be excited about with that. I do have a few additional reports here. I think a lot of this was covered in an earlier slide, but I have some more detail here about them. SMS opt-in, opt-out. It lets you know when certain reports have been sent, and you can keep the time frame or the timeline for those opt-in, opt-out records on this report. Conditions and history, again, just checking the history of what we're sending to our candidates. And then the SMS users metrics, this provides a total summary of your usage across all your all your tenants, excuse me. And this is helpful for understanding your usage over a greater length of time, right? So you'll get more out of that as we go along and use Workday messaging more and more. But all that being said, we've covered a lot today. Kate, I can pass it back to you. We do have a polling question you should see pop up here briefly about, based on that conversation that we just had, based on what I just showed you, what you feel like Workday messaging is going to be the most beneficial to use it with. Feel free to add any other ideas you may have in the chat as well. I'm always curious to hear how individuals are going to utilize this functionality.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. This has been so informational. Yes, take a few moments, provide your responses to this poll question here, and then we'd also invite you to come off mute and ask any questions at this time. And it looks like we had one question that came in through Q&A during the registration process. Jared, are there any gotchas to know about when it comes to implementing the messaging?
Yeah, that's a good question. I covered one of them earlier with the caveat that we start from production with Workday messaging, which is really backwards. And you can run into hiccups where, you have your implementation team working on setting up different functionality, you've been building it out, and then all of a sudden to test the Workday messaging, you need to copy production, which is going to overwrite your work. So you really need to be mindful about that piece of it when you're planning out when to implement Workday messaging or even where you want to test it, right? So like I've done it in Sandbox, which can be a bit of a headache in that it gets rewritten all the time. But in that situation, that's what we had to do because we couldn't overwrite the progress we'd made on our other tenants. So it's something to really think about early on and set yourself up for success. The other caveat I ran into is with testing specific messages. So I found that in my experience, setting up a notification restriction to a specific number led to errors. And it came from the fact that with Workday messaging, if you set up a specific number to receive all the messages that you're sending during testing, it's only going to work one time. After you use it one time, that text number isn't going to work, which can be confusing and frustrating if you don't know what that issue is. So to get around that, the recommendation I give to my clients is if you want to test Workday messaging, I would recommend when you create your candidates, directly adding the text message that you want to test with onto that candidate. That removed any errors I had with Workday messaging. It worked fine after we started doing that. So I think those are the two pieces that you really need to be aware of with Workday messaging. But again, really good question. Appreciate you bringing that to the table, Kate.
Thank you. All right. Well, that wraps up our webinar today. Thank you for joining us and Jared for your insights. We look forward to having you on next month's Ask an Expert. See you then.
Thanks, everyone.